Before we get into this episode, I just want to talk very quickly about the awesome little microphone that I'm using here. This is the DJI Mini, and as you can see, it's very mini. You can hear me. It is what I'm using. You can stick that under your jacket, under your lapel, under your t-shirt, or you can have it out in the open wherever you like. But as you can hear, the sound quality is absolutely fantastic. This is a much cheaper proposition than the DJI Mic 2. It doesn't have the full range of features, but I can tell you, in the field, it is very, very small. It is very, very fast. It's very light. It does come in the same, and look at that, just sits in your pocket. And this is why I love this kit and got this as well. Not only is it super affordable, but you can just slip it in your pocket and have it there all the time. And it's got the same collection of receiver and the two mics that we have here. And you are ready to go in an interview situation in an instant. And of course, the carry case is not only a storage case, but it is a charging case as well. And you've got the USB-C port on the back.
If you'd like to check out the full spec of the DJI Mic Mini, here it is. Just pause for your convenience.
Just a great kit, in the pocket, off you go. It's that easy. All right, let's get into the video. G'day everybody, how are you going today? It is so good to see you. I do hope you are super well. Today I want to share with you a channel development, advancement. What I'm interested in on this channel is understanding the mirrorless market as much as I can. And in order to be able to talk about other brands with some degree of authority and authenticity, well, from my perspective, the best way is to get them into your hands. For those that have been watching the channel for a little while, you would know over the last year or so that I have been purchasing full-frame cameras from a number of different brands. This is the Panasonic S5IIx. Great little camera. Lots to talk about with this, and you can check out a couple of videos on my channel from this camera. More to come. I purchased this camera with the ubiquitous 50mm 1.8. It's almost the only lens that all systems have in common. Plus, well, they are somewhat affordable. When you're trying to get across a lot of brands, you do have to think a little bit about cost. I purchased the Canon R6II, also with its ubiquitous 50mm 1.8. The only way that I can understand how Lumix and Canon do business is to own them and to use them in the field, as I normally use any other camera. For those that have been watching my channel for a long time will know that when the full frame, the 35mm censored mirrorless interchangeable lens camera revolution began, I was very interested in it. At the time, I think I was shooting with the D800Es in the Nikon range. This is in 2013. But I like the idea of a very, very small camera that could take all of my Nikon F-mount lenses. And thus, back in November of 2013, at the very beginning of this revolution in mirrorless cameras, I purchased this tiny little camera here, which is the Sony A7R. This is the original, came out at the same time as the A7. And this is with my 24-105 f4 lens, still a current lens. At the time I shot with this camera, it didn't quite give me the same picture quality as the D800E, and that's due to the fact that Sony on launch decided to give us fairly highly compressed RAW files. So you didn't have the same capacity to go into the shadows and to go into the highlights and pull out information. But this still showed the exciting and also a little bit scary future of mirrorless. And here we are. This is this 36 megapixel sensor right there with not a lot between it and the world. And the very first time I saw this, I was pretty stressed out about it. It's something 12 years later I'm a lot more comfortable with. Absolutely tiny camera, and probably from my perspective, a little bit too small. But of course, Sony kept working on that, and in the months before the Z mirrorless system was announced in 2018, not that long after this camera was actually launched, I purchased the A7R III. And the reason that I purchased the 3 was, well, there was no 35mm mirrorless system from Nikon, and it was when I was starting to think about my channel and starting the channel, and I wanted a mirrorless camera to do that. And also I wanted to expand upon and experiment further with this original concept here, which was the first Sony camera, but I did want to see whether they'd taken it any further and it had improved. And things had improved. For example, we had in-body image stabilization now, we had 2 card slots, we had better video specs, better autofocus. Things were certainly starting to improve by 2017, 2018, when this camera was in the market. So I purchased that way back then. In the interest of having a full understanding, full hands-on experience of what a modern detachable lens 35mm camera can do today from the 4 major companies, I have now invested for the channel in the latest, which comes in this category here, sort of the entry to mid-ish 35mm space, by picking up the Sony A7 IV. And yes, there has been advancement when it comes to what Sony gave us in 2013, in 2017, 18, and now of course in 2025. Now this is at this level in the market, which is basically their entry into a professional full frame camera. There is the A7C II, which I did look at, but ultimately it is not fully gripped. It doesn't have the best EVF on the planet, and it doesn't have a full shutter. Along with, basically the overall ergonomics from my perspective, it just isn't in keeping with what the Lumix and the Canon are doing here. So this is the only option at this point in time. Whether we're going to see an A7 V anytime soon or not, there's been rumours about that for a long time, but the latest rumours are saying not this year. So I've decided to go with the A7 IV, which obviously most closely matches the R6II and the Lumix S5IIx, along with some other Lumixes. And of course, Lumix has just released the S1IIe, which is similar in a lot of ways. So why am I doing this? Well, to repeat, the reason is for me to absolutely understand what is contemporary in the market today. To absolutely understand when people talk to me about autofocus or in-body image stabilization across these 4 brands, that I can actually say, well, yes, I agree, or well, no, that's not my experience when using these cameras. Now, of course, it's a massive endeavor for a channel of this size to be getting across all of these brands. But I think if I'm going to be able to offer the most useful information, it's critical that I am across these 4 brands. And thus, I will slowly grow the lens collection for each of these, but it's going to be a long haul to do that. And that is why with all of these cameras, I now have a 50mm 1.8. That is literally, when it comes to this sort of price point in the market of lenses, that's literally one of the only places that you can go to, one of the only lenses that you can go to that they all have that are sort of similarly priced and sort of similar quality. The Nikon systems. Now, Nikon's interesting. I was going to be doing all of this with the Z6 III and the 50mm 1.8, but now Nikon has released the Z5 II, which basically can compete with these cameras on many fronts. And that's a really interesting proposition. And if you just saw my video about the fact that Nikon, it got first position when it came to sales, above Sony and above Canon, and this is due to the Z5 II's price. And of course, not only is it price, but the feature set that comes with it. This is really interesting and really compelling. In coming episodes, I'm going to be able to talk about how does the Z5 II compare with these cameras, along with how does the Z6 III compare with these cameras. Now, not every video is going to have all of these cameras because it's an enormous undertaking to test this many cameras at once across all of the features that we want to see. So over time, we will be picking and choosing cameras and lenses as I can get hold of them. But yes, it is an enormous expense, and that's why it's taken me a long time. I've just hit 100,000 subscribers, so that shows in itself that it's taken a long time to be able to purchase all of these items so that I can test them, so I can talk to you about it with authority and authenticity. So there it is. I just wanted to share with you that the Sony a7 IV is now part of the channel. Of course, that means to lens manufacturers, you can also consider sending E-mount lenses, as well as RF if they exist, L-mount lenses, and of course continue to send Z-mount lenses. I think it's important as these cameras get more and more mature, I wonder, is it the lens set or the feature set which is separating them, or is it the price? Because I think we're getting to a point, and we saw this with the BCN Japanese sales and Nikon hitting #1, that while the Z5 II is a very, very compelling camera against Canon and Sony, and because the price was that much better, that took Nikon to the #1 spot. So it's really interesting, and I'm really keen to understand how close all of these cameras are together. Now, of course, I've already started shooting with them, and well, the results of that will be coming soon. So if you're not subscribed to the channel, make sure that you do subscribe to the channel. And yeah, plenty to come on all sorts of fronts. Like, once you've got all of this gear, golly gosh, there's a lot of permutations that we can play with. I look forward to bringing you more of all of that soon. And before we go, I'm excited to tell you that I'm using a new CF Express Type A card, because the a7 IV has 2 SD slots and 1 Type A slot. As part of one of those SD slots, this new Type A card is from Pergear. It is known as the standard card. It comes in 256 gigabytes as well as 512. It is compatible with all of these cameras. There is also a Gen 4 version of these cards, which is twice as fast. This is their reader. It comes with both a USB-A and USB-C port. So there it is. That's a new Type A from Pergear. It's great value. It runs very, very quickly. All right, everybody. Well, it's been so good to have you here for this little channel announcement and some of what we're going to see in the future. It's been so good to see you. And if this is your first time here, I'd love to see you again so I can show you more about all of these camera systems. All righty. Bye for now.